that'll be cool. Right, I'll have a pointer thing. Excellent. I'm Griffen. I'll not look at the screen because that doesn't. I was going to build that. That's okay. So I don't know most of you, which is kind of cool. So I assume that most of you won't know me. This is mildly uncomfortable for me because I'm essentially a medicinal chemist, stood in front of a bunch of computational chemists and cheminformaticians talking about stuff that's where I'm way out of my depth. However, because I'm a medicinal chemist, that isn't a problem to me because we are arrogant people. So what I'm talking about is work that we got Dave Cos to do. Here is Dave. He's very browned off that he's not here to tell you about it. This was a picture he took of himself yesterday. As you can see, he's drinking wine in France. He would rather be here, but if you can't be here, drinking wine in France isn't so bad. So what I'm going to talk about is maximum common substructure finding or searching or identification, whatever you want. And it's going to be improved and it's coming soon as the pull request gets submitted by Dave. I'll cut to the chase for those of you who really just want to hear, does it work? Have we improved things? The answer is yes. Okay. So, you know, if that was what you were really here for, you can zone out, you know, check your mail, do whatever you like for the next 25 minutes. If you want to hear the rest of the story, I'll tell you the rest of the story. Well, I'm going to tell you the rest of the story anyway. Right. So why do I care? Why should you care? So I've been knocking around maximum common substructures for, it turns out, around about 17 years, and never did I bother to delve into exactly how it worked until about a month ago, which was really way too late, in my opinion. And for those of you who are a lot younger than me, I would recommend delving into stuff you use a lot at your earliest possible opportunity. You know, just learning. So things I do, I've done a lot of matched molecular pair analysis. I've got a really strong interest in automated R group finding. So when you don't know what the core is and you still want to do R group decomposition, because as a medicinal chemist, I'm really into SAR analysis. I'm also into free Wilson analysis because I'm a bit old school. I do like a bit of mixed modeling, which I'm not going to talk about, but is this, but with kind of when you put a bit of QSAR onto it. I'm going to show you a bit of constrained docking from a couple of weeks ago, but I've had to blind the molecules, which is a shame because it works super well. There are undoubtedly lots more cases where you need to use maximum common substructures. You may be using them. And the very fact that we finally delved into what I think is one of the more difficult techniques to work on, it'll be here for you, is the answer. So, this is a slide that I really put together primarily because of getting berated by Andrew Dalkey and Nathan Brown on various occasions. So I got involved first of all with WISE pairs, which we published back in 2010, but we'd actually been working on for a couple of years. WISE pairs is just basically using maximum common substructures to find out what a match pair is. Okay, so you know, if a pair of molecules shares a lot of a maximum common substructure and there's only one change, it's a matched molecular pair. We weren't the first to this idea. Bob Sheridan, the answer is always Bob, I think is one of the good rules of computational chemistry. Bob Sheridan had got there before us by a good 4 years, except the way he published it was bluntly a bit opaque to use. And hopefully ours is less opaque to use. But actually, if you really go back in the literature, the answer is Fujita's work from 1995. And I would thoroughly recommend reading this if you can get hold of it. ML, a system for database aided bioanalogous structural transformations. It's amazing what was being done in the 90s. It's just a really good read, but it's very kind of, there's no implementation in it. It's just, we've done this, good luck. Anyway, there's different ways you can find matched molecular pairs. And we published on this actually about, what's that now, 8 years ago. So this was work by Eva. I'm having trouble with the pointer. Yeah, Eva and our colleagues. So you can either use this kind of, where is it? You can either use maximum common substructure. So here's two molecules. Okay, the difference is we're converting a fluorine into a pyridine. And if we look at the maximum common substructure for that, How do I do this? That's better. If we look at the maximum common substructure, obviously, we're just cutting out this carbon fluorine and replacing it with a nitrogen. If you fragment this, which I'll come on to in a minute, and use the kind of Hussein and Ray algorithm, you can't break up rings. And what that means in reality is you don't find all the matched molecular pairs if you just use this method. And don't take my word for it. I'll give you some more examples. So here, for example, if you've got you're replacing this phenol with this extended system, that's the kind of thing that an MCSS approach will find, fragment index won't. Of course, there's the opposite. If the maximum common what you're actually changing is a linker, you'd be needing to cut all the linkers out. That's the best tool for the job. And it goes on. Now, there's some real subtlety in this that when you get into how maximum common substructures are found, it really depends on the atom typing. And for example, here, where you're swapping a pyrrole type nitrogen, which is aromatic, for an amide type nitrogen, which is not, this by and large won't be identified as a matched molecular pair unless you go in and particularly specify that you will allow those to be identified as common, despite the fact that I, as a medicinal chemist, would say, well, that's an absolutely splendid replacement because this is a nice hydrogen bond donor and this is a nice hydrogen bond donor. I want to be able to swap between the two. So it's problematic when you come to these, the way you will get around it, and particularly in small molecules, okay, you could fragment this off and just swap out the entire ring system. But if it's a relatively small molecule, that won't work because whatever rules you've got in place for don't swap out 3/4 of the molecule and call that a matched pair won't deliver. There are some other cases, some people might think these are edge, but we like macrocycles now. So, you know, maximum common substructure will work for this, fragment index won't, but this kind of system will be a major problem because you're just changing too much of the molecule. Again, for reference, Jamid Hussein's work on this fragment index, I think is absolutely brilliant and is super fast as well. So this is one reason why I really got into maximum common substructure. Does it matter? Yes. So we've done some background work on taking multiple data sets, use both methods, and if you only use one method, you will miss between 12 and 50 or almost 60% of your match pairs. So using only one method to find match pairs really isn't good enough if you want to be thorough and accurate. And those are things I kind of care about because it's really frustrating when either I don't find the match pairs that I want, or even worse, my clients don't find the match molecular pairs that they want. Okay. Second thing is, now we talked about this at various RDKit meetings. So we talked about Sarkouche, and this is work that Lauren's done. Lauren's in the audience. Where's Lauren? Give a wave. There's Lauren. It's important to identify who Lauren is because I'm going to be running for a train after the end of this. So ask Lauren hard questions, not me. Anyway, Sarkouche, what we do here is we're trying to create Markouche type structures from sets of molecules, and we need a rigorous algorithmic way of doing that. That's cool because you can then say, oh, look, these are what I've got. So for example, my X1 group is a carbon, there, X2 is a nitrogen. So we can build up a description of a molecule like that, but where we know what the individual groups are, and that's kind of cute, but so what? Well, because if you want to do free Wilson analysis, I suspect lots of people don't do free Wilson analysis, primarily because it's an absolute swine to keep rebuilding your cores when you're working on a real project. So you start on your project and you define a core and you do your R group decomposition, and then the medicinal chemists go along and they put a nitrogen where you had a perfectly good halogen before, and you have to redraw your cores. And you go, okay, now I've got a new core. And then the next week they do it again. And it just wears you out. You just stop doing it, so you don't do free Wilson analysis. But if you've got an automatic way of doing it, you can do it, and that's what we do. And that allows you to answer some really good questions like how much are individual substituents worth? We're now exploring ways of when you've got a new substituent, what fill-in number do you put in for that until you've actually done a measurement. We use Pat Walters' free Wilson analysis code to accept Sarkouche structures. Would recommend. It's very good. But beyond that, once you've got, and this is, you don't need Sarkouche to do this. I'm just giving you this as a freebie because it's kind of cool. If you've got lists of molecules that you've converted to lists of consistent R groups, and you could do that by R group decomposition, so you could just do this doing normal RDKit stuff. But then you can assign what pharmacophores have been present just by, and I don't think this is particularly revolutionary at all. I'm just recommending it to you as a medicinal chemist as a cute thing to do, because you can say what are present, but you can also go, what's missing? And that's kind of cool, because going back to a team and going, did you know you've never put a hydrogen bond donor in that position? That's a hole in the SAR when you're actually actively working on projects. How am I doing? I'm doing all right. So that's cool. The long and the short of it is, Lauren presented this, I think, a couple of years back in Berlin. Pair finding is right at the first step if you want to find those calls automatically. So we really need to care, bluntly. You know, we need to get our pair finding right. And if we will do pair finding right, we need to do maximum common substructure right. Okay. Over the last 5 years, I've got much more involved in some live antiviral projects. We've had a huge amount of X-ray data. So for those of you who paid attention when I ran onto this stage yesterday and talked about generating huge amounts of X-ray data, one of the things that's turned out to be really useful is embarrassingly simple to do, okay? So when you've got an X-ray structure, this is, we just call it rigid overlay alignment. I don't even know if it's got a proper name. So you've got an X-ray of a ligand in the target protein, you generate a library of new analogs, you determine the maximum common, where's the damn pointer, maximum common substrate between your prophetic compounds, the compounds you're thinking of making, and the ligand. That's it, okay? You've generated, assuming we've got good RDKit conformers, we just stick them on, line them up, and see which ones hit the sides. Now you're like, why don't you do docking and see what moves? Because this is easier to explain to a medicinal chemist and it's easier to filter out. If you bang into the sides, it's probably not going to go well. Don't prioritize it. Now, I can't show you, unfortunately, the structures, which is kind of embarrassing because we're supposed to be an open source project. That's a different story. But the green blob, so we've got multiple ligands here. Green ligand is our target X-ray structure, and then you've got the purple and the orange and the pink. These are prophetic compounds, and it doesn't take any interpretation to look at this and go, well, the orange and the pink are banging into the sides over here and the purple's not. Let's focus on making the purple first. That's it, okay? This is really easy stuff, and you could all code this probably in an afternoon, maybe 2 afternoons. It's a super cool method, but again, you'll be needing that maximum common substructure. So this is why we got into, this is bluntly, this is why I said to Dave Cosgrove, he was on the first slide, it would be much better if he was presenting it this rather than me. I said to Dave, the MCSS is a bit slow. We could do with going quicker, especially when you want to do things like this on big libraries. You want to be able to pump a whole lot of ligands through. This will become a rate determining step, or you want to do a lot of matched molecular pair analysis, and we do a lot of matched molecular pair analysis. But well, the RDKit implementation is really good. Okay, I'm not going to knock it. It is damn fast. I just want more. Okay, that's my thing. It is also designed for, and I've got to be careful here because Landrum G is the author. So, you know, I'm once again on more risky turf here. But it is specifically designed to solve a certain problem. And that's for finding maximum common substructure between sets of molecules. I have much more limited ambitions. I just want to find it quickly between 2 molecules. That's a unique benefit. It's a super cool algorithm. So take the smallest molecule, create fragments by deleting bonds, match the seeds against the other molecules, in this case, the other molecule, discard any that don't match, grow up your seed, until you get the biggest thing, literally the maximum common substructure, losing the name. Obviously, the larger molecules it's going to do a lot of substructure matching in that. So there's the potential issue. So here's some standard molecules just to do some time trials, okay? Not particularly exciting molecules, that's the point. They're not supposed to be special. And look, the fast MCSS is, and I've labeled this original for reasons that will become clear. Whoops, how do I go back? That's it. So this is just replacement of chlorine with nitrile. This is from one of our antiviral projects where we've got a spirolactone here and the ring open form here. And we've got the extension of an N-methyl to an N-ethyl, all pretty vanilla match pairs. Nothing special going on here. I mean, this one's a little bit funky, but really the others. And, blazingly quick. So that's great. We're not going to go far from these, and it's going to go horribly wrong, okay? Because otherwise there wouldn't be any reason for me wanting to do this. Yeah. So just do a ring contraction. This is bad. This is worse at 1,000. This is really terrible. Okay, all we're doing is we're swapping out this ring for this ring. That is genuinely 16 seconds. These were all run on the same machine. So we've gone from the millisecond time scale up to tens of seconds. And you're thinking, yeah, is this a real problem? Well, these came out of our work. These were not toy, deliberately engineered, difficult cases. These are things that we encountered. In this case, this is from the antiviral programs we were working on. This is real life hellscapes. These were labeled Lauren's grievances in our office for a while. So I'm here to try and reduce the amount of grief Lauren gets. We are in the business of doing a lot of matched molecular pair analyses in the kind of, so 10 to the 6 by 10 to times 10 to the 6. So 10 to the 12, 10 to the 14 kind of levels. So if you've got a few that take 16 seconds, that's going to be bad. I'll show you how bad in a bit. So how are we doing for time? We're all right. So specifying the problem better. First way of thinking about it. So I just want 2 molecule case, just want connected fragments because fragment index is excellent for the other cases. We could constrain the maximum common substructure. I mean, the fact that if you find the maximum common substructure between 2 molecules is carbon, true but not useful. Even these 2 molecules share a benzene. Great. It's not really doing it for me. So we can do better than that. And does that, well, of course it allows some optimization because otherwise I wouldn't be stood in front of you. Okay, what about doing something completely different? And Rascal is cool. There is a really good blog post, actually written by Dave again, and there's the background paper here from the Willett group about how it works. I would recommend reading it at least once in your life as an exercise in self-improvement. I found it pretty impenetrable. Dave said he had to wrap a hot towel around his head to get his head around it. But it's doing something different. It's trying to find the common edge subgraph. It is, again, scorchingly fast. Usually the maximum common edge subgraph is the same as the maximum common substructure, but not always. Occasionally, it finds disconnected structures. It's got some really good things in it. The first thing it does is it actually tries to estimate the Johnson similarity, which is the number of edges in the MCES plus the number of vertices in the MCS, basically divided by the sum of those in the individual molecules. And then uses clique detection. For kicks and giggles, this is not the same Johnson. This is a bad person. This is a good estimator. There's a lot of Brits who take this very seriously. So what about using Rascal then? And Rascal does the same job, well, essentially the same job. it goes a little bit slower on these, but we're in the same ballpark. It absolutely rocks when it comes to these slow cases. So, massive improvements here. So it's doing a really, really good job on solving problems. So you might just say, right, just use Rascal then. It does give some subtly different results. So if you're swapping over, if you're in the business of actually trying these out, I would recommend giving Rascal a go, actually. That's my recommendation. Try it, see what works, see what you think of the output. But we carried on. So still, why bother? Well, given this algorithm, what about just trying to put some better seeds in here? Because taking the really small fragments and then growing them up is the problem. So if they're fairly large molecules, you're going to have to grow out quite a lot. So what about trying to find some better seeds to put into the molecules and then do the rest of the algorithm? So this is what Dave set off to do. As I said, this is not my work. This is Dave's work. And this is the slide that would really be aided by a good graphic that explained how this algorithm worked. And I don't have a good graphic for that because we only finished the work at the end of last week, but at least this is fresh. That's one of the things I'll promise you. But what we're doing is we're saying, providing an option that for a 2-molecule input, we stick on a clique detection algorithm at the front so you find a better seed molecule for the FMCS. Often, actually, that'll give you the answer straight off. So Dave's implemented a Bron-Kabosh algorithm with the Koch modification. I've learned to say all that. I couldn't. This is the detail. What you're effectively doing is building a correspondence graph between the 2 molecules and then finding the cliques within that, which are in themselves MCSS. The useful thing is you can feed in a parameter, which is the minimum maximum common substructure size. And that in itself actually improves the search times a huge amount. So I think we can go quicker by using the Johnson similarity estimators from the Rascal code. So if we put that on first and then do this, I reckon there's more speed up to be had, but Dave went off to drink wine. So there we go. So does it actually deliver? Yeah, it does, of course, because otherwise I would have not bothered getting up here. It doesn't make a huge improvement on the kind of molecules that were fast. And these are a bit worse. So, Ed's come up here and he's proposing, he said fast, and now he's showing stuff that's slower. That's not quite right. Don't worry, we'll get to the punchline in the end. It certainly pulls it back. It's not the same as Rascal, but we get much better performance on the slow molecules compared to the original. So in terms of delivering, can we have a faster MCSS for molecules that are currently slow? Yes, we can. The pull request is pretty much ready to go. But does this, again, really, have I picked out some slow molecules, that really are never going to impact in your working life because, they're so rare that most of them, just use the standard algorithm, it'll be all right. So yeah, we were concerned about that, obviously. So we have a set of almost 6,000 chemical compounds. These are from an EGFR data set. They're multiple chemical series. It's very match pair rich, so it's going to take a long time. They are from a lot of different chemical series because there are a lot of companies who've worked in the area. We've cleaned and taught them to standardize them already before they went into this. You can see the time to run with the new algorithm. It's about 4-fold if you do it on 1,000 of those molecules, but if you do it on the full 6,000 set, we get about a 20-fold speed up. So what are we expecting when we're doing this in bulk? We're expecting between a 4 and 20-fold speed up. That kind of meets the brief about what we were hoping to do. I think I've probably finished about That's it. This is the proposals. So we've got a pull request ready. We've got a Jupyter notebook with all the examples, except I wanted to walk you through it and not just take you through Dave's Jupyter notebook with the test files, so you can take those through. What we will do as well is we'll provide a blog post to actually document it and ideally provide a nice little graphic of how the algorithm works, because that would help me as well in terms of my credibility. We're planning on just contributing this to the RDKit. Dave's done the work, we've paid him to do it, but we would like it to be in the RDKit, so we're planning on doing that. Your average user, you're not going to see a big difference. Specifying the smallest acceptable MCSS, I do think is good. We just need to find, I think, if we want the additional speed ups, we've just got to persuade Dave to find enough space in his diary to do the work. That's it. I'm done. I'll answer easy questions now. If you've got hard questions, we'll direct them to Dave. Yes.
I have one comment, correction. First, I've been avoiding Discord because I think Andrew may be jumping up and down. Just a quick correction, the reference that you gave is from a multi-MCS paper, but that was not the FMCS paper. So that was a different algorithm. It's not nearly as clever as multi-MCS. Oh, sorry, as FMCS. FMCS is from Andrew Dahlke.
Okay, I'm happily.
Yeah, so I think just fix that citation. Our algorithm was much more complicated. That algorithm was much more complicated and not as functional as FMCS.
As long as I'm citing that FMCS is the right algorithm.
FMCS is the right algorithm.
Good.
Andrew.
Andrew, I apologize now for.
Also, I don't want to get credit for Andrew's work. Are there questions, Brian?
When you put in your seed, can you backtrack from it, or does it have to be part of? Repeat question.
Oh, yeah, sorry. When you put in the seed, can you backtrack from it, or does it have, I think it has to be part of the full MCSS because of the way we're fine. I think we could put an option in for specify your own seed as well. I need to talk to Dave about that.
FMCS already allows you to specify them.
Yes, that's why we're actually, yeah, thank you. We're piggybacking on that option. So we're utilizing that, but.
What we found out 20 years ago was if you put it in the largest linear match, that's a really good seed from 95%.
Okay, cool.
Other questions, Brad?
Sure.
Mentioned disconnected substructures. Have you thought about using disconnected backbone substructures for match pairs?
Oh yeah, we do use them. Oh, sorry, yeah. Have we thought about using disconnected maximum common substrate? Yes, but the Hussein and Ray algorithm does a really good job at finding those. So it's kind of, I'm after improving our overall match pair finding. I've already got a really good solution for the disconnect, and the disconnected maximum common substructures that certainly come out of Rascal are a little bit weird, to be honest. The ones we saw were not what you would, they weren't what we wanted, whereas the Hussein array actually produces the kind of things that work well, and chemists seem to find intuitive. So that's really the answer. Any more for any, Pam?
John mentioned try to do some improvements on the original FMCS implementation in RDKit in the past, and I was already seeing victory because there were a few open bugs or molecules which were not that large, taking pathologically long times to fix. And then someone else later on came on with other examples which are still taking a very long time to run. So it would be great if we could do a search in the GitHub issue tracker for MCS and check those examples against this to see whether you managed to fix those.
Okay, so Paolo's found some previous examples in the GitHub issue tracker. So we'll go back and test those. Thank you very much indeed.
Dave should be able to find those.
I'm absolutely certain he can.
One last one.
So for these disconnected substructures, are you able to specify wisdom? Because that was actually missing in last the substructures are being directly connected with them.
I think we can do that in our implementation of the same. Sorry, the question was, can you specify the distance between disconnected substructures? Yeah, the minimum distance. I think we do that, Lauren. Yeah, don't we? Okay. It is a good idea. We'll take that away. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.